Hey folks, welcome back to our channel. My name is Nigel and this is Offgrid Van Life, where we look at van conversions like this one, Offgrid Power, lithium iron phosphate batteries and everything in between. Basically, we want to help you to get on the road and find that adventure and to be able to power your coffee machines or whatever it is that you need and want to make that trip awesome and that lifestyle epic. In this video, we're going to be looking at round 2 of window installation. So in the last video, we put in these 2 windows here, that one and that one there, which are both on the 2 front panels of the back of the van here. So the one on the door, which is that one there, that is just a solid glass pane, no opening or anything like that, because we decided if you need to open something, you can just open the door. Obviously not while you're driving, but if you're stationary, you got that door, you get loads of ventilation that way. It's also lighter just to have plain glass than having the sliding mechanism in it, and it's slightly cheaper as well. So a few factors there as to why we made that decision. On this side though, that is a sliding window, so half of the pane of glass slides open, so that when we parked up somewhere, we can open that up, open the door, have a through draft and loads of ventilation. We do also plan to put a skylight up here somewhere right at the front of the back of the van here, front of the back, sounds weird, right at the front, so we can have room for a massive 450 watt solar panel on the rest of the roof. So in the back here, just above where the bed's going to be, so these 2 back quarter panels here, we're going to put one of these windows on either side. So this is the inside obviously, and that's what it'll look like on the outside. And it's basically just a ventilation window, so it just has a little slider that opens up. You would never be able to crawl through there, you can barely get a hand through there, so it's relatively secure. Just allows you to have some ventilation there on that back bed. Also will allow some sunlight. They are blackened or tinted windows, so it's not going to be great for sunlight, and there's also really not a huge amount of the glass that's not completely blacked with this edging, but it is looking good, so I'm pretty excited to get these in here. So yeah, let's get after it. One of the key things with anything like this is the preparation. So with those other bigger windows, they were slightly easier to install, I think, in the sense that they basically fill up the whole panel. So all we had to do is cut along the edge of the panel, and it was very easy to get that right. Pretty much got it bang on both sides. Had to trim one side just slightly, but it was pretty straightforward. With this, however, there is room for error. Have a smaller surface area around the window to work with, so obviously you have to get it more precise, because if you cut too much, then you are screwed. Much better off cutting too little and then making your hole bigger if you need to, then because obviously once you've cut it, you can't reverse that. Once you've cut, you've cut. So we're going to work here. I'll show you in a second, but we've got 2 down pieces here of metal. They just add some stability to these quarter panels, obviously, while the vehicle's moving. And so what I'm going to do with these is, obviously one of them is going to have to be cut to make way for this new window. But I don't want to position the window directly in the middle of that quarter panel, and then therefore having to cut both of those support structures. So I'm going to put the window slightly back. I think it'll look actually better having it slightly further back than right in the middle of that panel. But more importantly, we're not going to be cutting those 2 vertical support members. So yeah, I've got all my tools and everything that I need here ready to go. This is the box that these windows came in. I'm going to cut one of the sides of this box and then cut out a template, which I'm going to then use to mark where I'm going to cut on the window. For this one, since I actually installed the other windows, it hadn't arrived yet when I was going to install the other windows, but I bought this, which is a nibbler. I've never actually used one of these before, but I'm told that it's easier to get a more precise cut in this sort of sheet metal than it is using an angle grinder. So if you watched the last video, this is what I used last time, just with a very thin cutting stone on there. And I'm pretty proficient with an angle grinder. I've used it a lot, so I'm pretty happy with that. My dad was here to help with the last videos, windows. So I mean, I'd be comfortable to use the angle grinder again, but I'm going to give this new nibbler a shot. You don't have to have a nibbler. They're not expensive if you get one of these ones that goes onto like a DeWalt or a drill. But I think it cost me like £60 or something like that, so it's not like breaking the bank. But it's also something that your average person, if you're just converting a van for yourself, you may not use the nibbler once you've actually installed the window. So if you already have an angle grinder and you are happy to use that and comfortable with it, know how to use it safely, all that sort of stuff, just get the right stone and just use that, I would say. But yeah, it's much of a muchness. The important thing is to be able to cut the hole accurately, and more importantly, in your preparation, just make sure you get the sizing of the hole correct before you start cutting, because as I said before, once you've cut, you can't go back. So yeah, let's get after it. So this is where I'm going to be putting the window here. As you can see, we've got the two vertical support structures there, which is what I mentioned. We're basically going to put the window positioned in this gap here, which means we're going to have to cut that support structure out, but I didn't want to take both of the support structures out. Unfortunately, it's a pity that they didn't, when they built this van, have them more symmetrical here. I don't know why they've got them forward. Must have some sort of structural reason behind it, but anyway, we're going to take this support structure out because that glass is going to take up the best part of that space, and we'll basically just position it in that gap evenly. So yeah. So just to kind of talk through the process of creating this template, essentially what I did was obviously cut out the outside of the glass, got this piece that matched that, and then I just measured and kind of guessed where I thought the cut should go on the inside there. But what I saw when I did this was that I'd actually cut a bit too wide on some of the corners here. There's still enough to be able to glue it in, and I would probably be satisfied with that cut. But just in the interest of getting it kind of perfect or better, I then use the inside bit that I've taken off that, and I rounded the corners. And so the thing to bear in mind when you're cutting these sort of holes for these windows is you're better off cutting it too small. So for example, let's say I cut the hole and like cut across where it should go there, and then have to cut again to widen it and make it bigger to fit it in so that it's snug. You're better off that route than the opposite, where you cut it on the outside and then you have a gap and then you're screwed because it's not going to seal, it's not going to stick properly. So I always err on the side of cut a smaller hole and increase it if you can, and if you need to, then cut a hole that's too big, because then you're stuck. Then your options essentially at that point is just to get a bigger window and to cut the hole out even bigger, which I don't really want to do. This is the size of window that I want on these panels, so yeah, get it right first time. Okay, so after marking that out and just eyeballing it quickly, I've made the decision that I'm actually going to push this all the way forward. So I'm going to put my template slightly off this front support panel here, and then remark where that's going to go. Mainly, the main reason for that is that I want the window to be as central as possible. Now it's not possible for it to be completely central because of these two support panels, two support struts in the back here. If it wasn't for those, then we could get it pretty much completely central, but because of those two support struts, it's not possible to get it completely central here in the back. But at least this will get it closer to being in the center of this rear panel here. Right, so let me just do that so we know But yeah, essentially that's now where that's going to go, and I think that's a much better position, more central, not quite center of the panel, but it is more central. So now what I'm going to do is just make double sure that this is definitely not too big for the outside of that pane, which I'm confident that it is, but we're just going to do double checks, because that's always the most important thing, is you check, triple check, quadruple check before you cut. So let's get after that. All right, so I'm happy with that. So now we're going to do this, and we are going to drill a hole through the side of this van. Having tried the nibbler now, I actually think that I might prefer the angle grinder. So I'm gonna probably do that for the straight bits. We'll see. Maybe I'll use a combination of the two. Okay, so there we go. We have cut a hole in the side of the van here, and it's looking good. Pretty happy with the fit of the glass. So now we're going to tidy this up, get that rubber beading, and put it on here and get this good to go. It's looking good. Alright, so I'm pretty chuffed with how that looks there. Pretty snug fit. So, like with the other windows, pretty much the same sort of process, whereby you are preparing your walls of the van, cutting the holes, putting that beading on, putting the primer on. Now we're going to etch the glass here with the stuff that came with these things, and then after that we can then put the glue on and actually glue these things in. Prepare this glass here, so we're going to be just going around the edge like this, being careful not to actually go onto the clear glass. You only want to stay on this black bit here, because this these wipes supposedly have some sort of chemical that etches the glass or does something to prepare it for the adhesive that you put it onto. So we're just going onto this black bit here just to prepare it and do whatever etching process is necessary to get it ready to stick on there. So we're not going over the clear bits, we're just going over the black bits here. Right. Okay, now is the moment of truth. Here is an inside view of the window. Pretty happy overall with how it looked. That top line there has about a centimeter give. Those two sliders are pretty much against at the back there, so got that measurement pretty accurate, and the bottom there is pretty much bang on to where the drain things are going out there. So overall pretty happy, but quite a challenging window to fit actually, but I'm pretty pleased with how they turned out in the end there. So yeah. And so there we have it, folks. 2 windows installed, one on each side, just like that. Little vent windows, so I'm pretty chuffed with how they turned out in the end. These were actually much trickier than I anticipated. I would go as far as to say that they're harder to fit than these big ones, just because the big ones, you have this huge area here which is kind of your grace area. So when you cut, you have a big area that you don't necessarily have to get the measurement exact. You've got quite a lot to play with there. With these ones, you've got a very small amount of the black bit there, and then on this side even more, literally about an inch or like 3 centimeters or thereabouts. It's very little margin for error there. And so I actually landed up on this one overdoing the adhesive. And so you can see here the marks a little bit come out here. I've had to try and tidy that up a bit and scrape away a little bit. So I've damaged the van's paint work here at the bottom, just trying to scrape it with a Stanley knife, which was not the right approach. In hindsight, actually alcohol rub or WD-40, rubbing it on here gets it off reasonably well. So you can kind of see the markings here. It's not that neat, but overall pretty happy with how they turned out. They're both in there. They are watertight and yeah, looking good. If I was to give anybody some advice on fitting these little windows like this, is probably spend more time getting the measurements precise. So I thought that I had got them pretty accurate, but I mean I had probably a centimeter or thereabouts to play with on between the top and the bottom, so like half a centimeter each, and actually I should have got it to within like millimeters, just to make it a bit easier for myself. So yeah, overall pretty happy, but got them in. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Next time we're going to be looking at putting a skylight in, so I'll take you guys through that and what I do there. So yeah, thanks for watching. Cheers.